Hello, my name is Tanya Lovett from tapyourtroublesaway.uk, and I'm really pleased to be here, and thank you so much for listening, because I want to introduce you to my new book. It is called Tap Your Trauma Away, Using EFT to Counter the Emotional Impact of Childhood Trauma and Abuse. It's on Amazon, it's in paperback as you can see, and Kindle, and it's only a little book, so it won't take you too long to read. So I really hope you do have a look at it and have a read. I'll read you a few excerpts from it so you get a flavour of what it's about. First bit that I'm really proud of is that there is a foreword by Carl Dawson, and if you haven't heard of Carl Dawson, you can Google him because he's there on the internet, because he was one of the 29 EFT founding masters. So there are only 29 in the whole world, and he's one of them, and he's written me a foreword, so I'm so grateful. And he is also the founder of matrix reimprinting, which is a technique that I also use. So thank you, Carl, and I really appreciate it. So his foreword says, "I'm always excited to hear new accounts of EFT and matrix. Both have been a huge part of my life, and I am grateful for that. I've seen both create remarkable change and healing for so many people, and I'm happy that this book continues to spread the news about the power and capabilities of these techniques." Tanya has captured the essence of the techniques and shown that they have the capacity to make a difference to issues such as grief, loss, low self-esteem, and drug addiction as a consequence of childhood sexual abuse. None of these are easy topics to face, but EFT and Matrix can handle them with grace and relative ease, reducing the power of their impact and their ability to affect an individual's life well after the initial triggering event. If you are suffering from the effects of limiting beliefs or decisions you made in childhood or early adulthood, or just know life isn't the way you want it to be, I invite you to read these stories and consider whether EFT or Matrix might be techniques that could release you too. And in my introduction, I say, this book contains the EFT stories of 4 women, a chapter in their lives. It could have been 4 men, but I just happened to work with 4 women at around the same time. All 4 experienced loss or trauma in childhood that was still affecting them in their adulthood. All 4 used EFT or tapping to change their adulthood. I've asked them if I can tell their stories in order that others can decide whether they think EFT or its extension matrix reimprinting might help them live fuller and richer lives. And I just want to read the beginning of the story, one of the 4 stories, to give you a flavour of the 4 women's stories and what we were working together on. So this is EFT with Catherine. Catherine told me she had a happy childhood until the age of 7. Then a devastating event occurred. That and its consequences changed her whole future, her sense of safety and security in life, and her ability to feel safe within herself. At this age, Catherine's mother had her first grand mal epileptic seizure, when Catherine's dad was out and she was at home with her mother and younger sisters. Catherine was terrified. She thought her mum was dying, and some of our later work was focused on the fear she had felt when seeing her mother's contorted face, that continued to affect the focus of her energy well into her adult life. Catherine told her sisters to stay in the house and ran, shoeless, in the thunder and lightning outside, bringing back a neighbour who was a doctor. Catherine's father later praised her for her actions, but what she knew was that she had simply fled, unable to bear the scene. This disconnect with Catherine's dad was never spoken about, but at that moment she formed the belief that she was a fraud, not a hero as she was portrayed. She did run to a neighbour, but she said she was running away, not to get help. She did find a doctor, but she said she had knocked on doors indiscriminately, and it was luck that the neighbour she found was a doctor. And she did come back with the neighbour, despite her fear, but she didn't think that was at all noteworthy. She also formed a belief that she was a coward who couldn't face the frightening scene. After that, Catherine's mother had epileptic fits every 6 months or less, but Catherine and her sisters lived in fear of them. From that time, Catherine was afraid to be alone with the person she most loved and needed. Her world had turned upside down, and when Catherine's mother died when she was 14, she was found to be suffering with a brain tumour. She felt desperately alone, lost, different, feelings that stayed with her well into adulthood. So the rest of the story and the other stories are about how EFT and Matrix changes the power of those beliefs and the ability of them to dominate a person's adulthood. Some of the other stories involve someone who was abused sexually as a child, who had become addicted to a substance in adulthood to try and cope with that experience. Someone who was experiencing anxiety, I guess, but it all linked back to a childhood in which she was undermined and not given emotional support. So I really hope this speaks to some people who maybe are experiencing something similar and think that there's no escape from the power of the memory, the impact of the negative event that happened during childhood. It is amazing how long some things can affect us, and it often needs something like EFT or matrix reimprinting to take away the power of those experiences and the emotional impact, to neutralize it in a way, so that we aren't dominated by it. We don't keep repeating patterns, we don't keep having nightmares, we don't keep being re-traumatized again and again. So Tap Your Trauma Away on Amazon, Tanya Lovett. I'd love it if you could read it, and if you like it, to leave a review as well. Thank you so much for listening, and bye.